Okay, Sportsfile have got a brand new edition of A Season of Sundays out. It's their annual collection of the best of their Gaelic Games photography throughout the preceding 12 months. And I'm delighted to say that Sportsfile's Brendan Moran is with us in studio. Brendan, you're very welcome.
Thanks very much, Eoin.
How are you keeping?
Very good now.
If we want to start off with a general enough one here, there are some incredible GA moments captured in this. If you had to pick your favourite GA moment, as a Kerry man, perhaps park your bias for a second here. What was your favourite GA moment captured throughout the year?
It's a strange one, really. Like, as you say, the whole Dublin thing, we'll kind of brush over that now, right? Because they won't necessarily like us for that. But there's a lot of moments in the GA season that can be pretty good. You know, we do everything from the lowest, McGrath Cup or O'Byrne Cup. We start at that level and we go all the way to the All-Ireland final. In terms of favourite moments, sometimes they can be the easiest thing, like we'd have a lad buying out of the chip van in Ossensack Park in December. Bad weather, a game that's quite low profile.
We have that fella up there up on screen. This was Limerick against Kerry in the Munster Hurling League, or the
co-op. Like it's sometimes we'd be looking, like a lot of the time we'd be looking out for that type of thing, because there's an abundance of photography now in our place this year, and it's just trying to find the space for them. Like, while we deal with online companies and we deal with newspapers and websites and everything else, like, we just sometimes we've gone this over 20 years now, and it's just nice to have something to have our own little outlet for pictures that we like and not necessarily what everybody else likes. In terms of my own favourite, like I love the emotion in sport nowadays and the excitement. And like, I took a picture of a Wexford fan this year, and like Wexford and Tipperary in, was it the All-Ireland semi-final or
All-Ireland
quarter-final?
semi-final, there's the photo there.
Yeah, like Wexford were winning the game comfortably, and Tip just came back. And sometimes I'd be looking to, like, that wouldn't necessarily make the sports pages, but it might make the front page of the newspaper. So you'd always look out for you'd be keeping your eye as the game goes on in the crowd and see you'd look for somebody that's shouting and roaring, because they're the people that are very emotive. And your man just try to creep behind his shirt, and it was just an interesting scene now, I have to say.
Do you remember what time of the match that was at? Probably during the night.
It would have been late in the second half. It would have been late in the second half, because I would have been in the canal end. And I had Wexford coming into me in the first half, and like, they scored a couple of goals, and things were looking rosy for them, in fairness. But then when the tide started turning, and Tipperary coming at me in the second half, so I have to watch Tipperary, but I'm also trying to look out for the likes of this. So I kind of can't take my eye off the pitch, but then again, depending on where the ball is on play, I might swing around, look for somebody, swing back. So it's sometimes you're a little bit like an assassin, that you're kind of trying to pick out a moment. You just try to pick out a moment, but you can't take your eye off the game.
It's just got an image. What's the name of that World War II documentary with I can't remember it. Featuring the snipers anyway. I just have a picture of you up in a tower in Moscow somewhere with a sniper. Like, you're down on the side of the pitch there. It's like, anybody who talks about journalists, they say they have the best seat in the house or whatever. I would argue photographers have the very, very best seat in the house. I mean, you get to, I presume, actually hear what's going on, and there's kind of a sense that nobody who's paying good money to be in the stands actually gets when you're down there right in the heat of it.
Oh yeah, you do hear, well, again, you wouldn't necessarily hear what players are talking about on the pitch, but you do get a sense of the speed of the game, particularly when you're low down. Like, I would argue, if I was a fan watching the game, I'd rather be up high, because you can see play develop easier than if you're on pitch side, because it's very hard to determine distances. But when you're close up to it, like, the speed of the game, even the way they talk about, like, certainly in hurling, the way they talk about two referees and things like that, like, certainly at the quarter-final, semi-final, All-Ireland final level of hurling, I don't know how they haven't got two referees in, because, like, the ball is pucked 60, 70, 80 yards, and there's a referee trying to see what's going on in real time while he's running or while he's moving. That's a very difficult job. So you do get a far greater sense of the speed of the game when you're right in front of it and you're close to it. And sometimes you get hits, and sometimes, injuries and things like that happen, and you can get a far greater sense straight away of what's going on, or the reaction by a player, which you wouldn't get on TV because they don't have microphones, or you wouldn't get in the stand. So yeah, we're a lucky bunch of people, all right.
There was another image of that Wexford fan on screen there. He got good coverage that day of on the All-Ireland semi-final. When you say you get hits and stuff like that, I presume you haven't had any near misses yourself or anything like that when you're that close.
You do get clobbered. Like I do a lot of basketball, and being under the net sometimes can be quite dangerous. But you just have to be aware of your surroundings. There is times that, players would come close to you. You just got to be real careful in that some of the grounds you sit behind the ads, other grounds you're sitting kind of in the corner. Now, we'd sit out in the corner for various number of reasons, but you're as far away as the play is going to, like, it's rare a player goes out to the corner, certainly in Gaelic games. But you just do have to be careful because sometimes grounds are tight and there's a runoff area. And there's nothing worse than a player comes close to you and he's celebrating in front of you and you've got the wrong lens. Because, like, we would have long lenses and kind of medium lenses then for, like, goal, mouth and try area. But if a fella's standing right in front of you, the worst thing that can happen to you is you're looking at him, everybody sees you on the television, and then they're wondering, how he didn't get the picture? So there's nothing worse than, like, fumbling around. And so you have to be aware that you make sure that you're in the right position and that you don't get caught out. Yeah. Particularly if you don't get caught out in television, because everybody sees then, you know, even your photographer mates are going, he definitely doesn't have that picture, because we know by looking at the camera that he has or the lens that he has. So it's, you try and avoid, you know, we're not there to be part of the event. We're only there to record the event. So you try and stay out of their way as much as you can. It's
pre-season time at the moment and peak club action at the moment as well, which for me, like when I'm watching it on television, there's just something so pure about TG Cahir set up in a place and the weather is terrible and they have to, like, start wiping the lens and all that to actually produce a good picture for the people at home. Similarly for yourself, it just leads to extraordinary photography, whether it's waterlogged pitches that we've never seen the likes of before, but particularly whenever the snow hits once in a while. And you were down in, it was Killarney actually for the Blizzard, the Meath Kerry hurling league game. I went to the football afterwards. I didn't brave these elements. We can see this on screen. This is one of the best images in Sportsfile this year. You took it. Like, that just must add a whole new layer of challenge to your art when those sort of conditions are coming down.
Well, it's exciting in a way, which sounds a bit perverse in some ways. Like, while we see bad weather and we see heavy rain and all that, it can make for great photography. Now, you end up getting soaked, but that's just the way it is. Like that day in particular, there was 2 games. Kerry played Monaghan the football afterwards. And surprisingly enough, the snow came down. And, like, for the football, there was no snow on the pitch at all. Yeah. So it was a bit freakish, but I knew, like, while it was Kerry Meath, wasn't it? Yeah. Kerry Meath wasn't going to be huge high profile. I knew that there was a picture in it somewhere. Like, there was pictures everywhere that day. Like, we've picture in the season Sundays. There's some other pictures out of it. And at one stage, the lad is taking a sideline cut, and he's kind of going, "Oh yeah, look, you know, stand back" or whatever. But they react. He thought it was somebody else, I think. But there's definitely, you know, that there's a picture in it, and you know you've only a short window to get it. So I only photographed the first half of that game. Because kind of the second half, the snow kind of stopped, and I was like, sure, look, there's no picture in it now. The pictures, you have to grab the opportunity when you get a chance. And that snow was just like, and it's funny, Kerry would rarely get snow compared to the rest of the country. Like, I've been in Monaghan one time, and actually it was Kerry Monaghan, and the match got called off. And by the time I left the ground, after I'd sent a few pictures, there was no snow. So it's funny the way January, February, March goes with weather. It can be totally extreme. You can be blanketed in the snow and the ref comes up and calls the match off because it's too dangerous and all the Kerry fans have to go home. But then 2 hours later, like, it's blazing sunshine and there's nothing on the pitch. But, you know, is it exciting? Now, you could be drying out for days afterwards. Like the Ireland hockey qualifier there recently in November. I've never seen rain like that on the Saturday night. Like, absolutely soaking. And no matter what you did, you couldn't keep dry. But there's still an excitement in you going, there's going to be a picture in this, there's going to be a picture in this, and you're waiting and you're waiting and you're working through it. Sometimes there isn't, but you kind of do hope that there could be a spectacular picture because the conditions are all coming together and all you need is a small moment to make it all worthwhile. You know, and if you get wet, sure, you get wet.
Absolutely. Jack Regan was the name of the Meath hurler who told you to feck off for a moment there.
Well, he was like, I think he thought I was somebody else because I was talking to the guy that was giving him the towel afterwards, and he says, he thought you were somebody else.
But actually, you're perfectly placed. Breaking news today, a yellow slitter coming into hurling. This is obviously, when you pick up the back page of the newspaper today, you're obviously throwing it up in the air in celebration for days like this.
But, because like one of the pictures I had on our pictures of the year kind of was, I think, Jack trying to take a sideline cut. And you look at all the snow, like, where's the slitter?
Ball, yeah.
You know, if you'd yellow there, it would be easier. It wouldn't have been as good a picture for me, but it would have been a lot easier for him. Do you know what I mean? And you do see it in, certainly, Floodlit games during the league. I would suspect I'm surprised they haven't brought it in sooner.
Yeah.
Because lads looking up into lights like that, and there's a ball flying at them at whatever 60, 70 miles an hour, like trying to catch that in your hand.
It's impossible.
Like the one thing I love about covering hurling is that their hand-eye coordination is fantastic. It's unbelievable, top class hurling.
Yeah, and eye-hand coordination important for a photographer as well. So there's obviously kind of a mutual respect there between the
we don't have a chance of a replay.
Here we've got a brilliant photo. This is another one from the All-Ireland hurling final. We will mention it briefly, Brendan. We may as well talk about Dublin's 5 in a row as well, because there's some beautiful shots, in fairness, beautiful shots throughout the book of that historic day, whether it's the Dublin fans, whether it's the Dublin players, and just the joyous scenes, I guess, in both codes, in the women's football and in the men's football. It's brilliant stuff. Just like some cracking photos there, Stephen Cluxton and the balloons around him. And like, I guess when you're on the ground at that moment, there are so many things happening.
Oh yeah, but like we would, our day for an All-Ireland final, everything from like 10 o'clock in the morning is laid out like in a timeline. So we know, because we would do a lot of corporate work and a lot of sponsor work as well on the day. So we would have whatever many 8 or 9 photographers at the game, and everything is planned out to the minute. So everybody, while there's a lot goes on, for us, if we don't plan it, people are going to be bumping into each other. And so everybody gets their own little tasks. Some people shoot with wide angle lenses, some people shoot with long lenses. And we're trying to tell a story today. And one thing we are is a library as well. So we're there for the history of the event. So it's not just about getting pictures online or getting pictures in the newspapers or whatever. We're also there to record a history. And the likes of the Season Sundays is there for a historical record. Like, we've done it for 20 odd years. And even the way Ireland has changed, kit has changed, people's look has changed, style has changed. Lots of change over that time. And it's like the All-Ireland final days now are so big that we could put in 20 more pictures in the book, but we just don't have the space. And so trying to edit it down, editing now becomes a key component of what we do, as much as taking the pictures, because there's so many good pictures out there and you just can't put everything into it. And all our finals days, there's always a great, like particularly Limerick last year, Tipperary this year. When the Dubs won 5 in a row this year, and that's truly historic. But when a team win for the first time in a long time, it's the emotion out of the players is amazing, and that's gold for a photographer. Like, you just can't wait. So the day Mayo win eventually, if and when it happens, that'll be just unbelievable.
A photographer's dream.
Oh, absolutely.
We want to talk about some of your moments of the decade before we let you go, Brendan, because we may as well start with Mayo, because they've given you quite a few moments this decade, and like, capturing emotion is obviously one of the most important things as a photographer. It's something that a video can't really achieve sometimes. It actually is the still that kind of just sums it all up. This year it's like a Renaissance painting almost.
Well, it's funny you say that, because the designer of our book, Peter Staunton, said that to me one time when he saw that picture. He was just like, there's so much going on in it. If you look at all, like, essentially that was just a snap, in that I wasn't really concentrating on it. I just saw them lined up, because my job that day was to take the losing team, not take the winning team.
Okay.
So you have to
split it up.
Yeah, everybody can't go after the winner. Somebody has to take the losers as well, or the runners up, or whatever. I
presume if you're covering the losing team more often, you more often get better stuff.
Well, you can do, but you're, again, it's a bit like the analogy I meant earlier about the assassin. You're looking around for a moment. Now, lots is happening. So you have wide lenses and long lenses and this, that and the other. So you're shooting fellas tight that there might be, you'd kind of watch the reaction between players. But the likes of this, it's got the whole sense of Dublin fans celebrating. The streamers are still hanging around there. But the Mayo team are just standing there. And like, the All-Ireland was there for the taking that year. They could have been champions. They could have been...
This is 17.
Yeah,
17,
I think so, yeah. Like, there would have been another picture I had from a previous year where the fireworks had gone off. There was a bit of sun streaming through the roof of Croke Park. Rob Henley is walking off.
There we are.
Yeah, like...
That's class.
That's one of the greatest pictures I ever took. And it's just the split second that you kind of look for this. You're looking around for something and you're going, what's here? And you're mooching around and there might be nothing, but you have to keep your eyes open. And sometimes it just all comes together. And like, that would be a better picture for me than going taking some lad lifting the Sam Maguire. It's historic and all, but it's not as good a picture as something like that.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll quickly get the Alan Brogan photo up as well, because I think you took that as well. That is obviously after the
Donegal game.
2014.
Yeah.
Brilliant. And then Like, I think for me, there's two iconic images of tears from the last decade. There's that one, and then there's obviously the Derek McGrath on Dan Shanahan's shoulder. And they're the kind of ones that you kind of remember of pure emotion. But also as well, when it comes back to you and the photos you've taken throughout this decade, there's two Olympic Games we need to talk about. Because, first of all, we'll start with London 2012 and having this almost certified moment that you would have a gold medal shoot happening in front of you. Now, it wasn't a total guarantee, but going into that Games, you were like, I could have a camera in my hand and it is up to me to capture Ireland winning their first gold medal in whatever it was, 16 years in this Olympic
Games. Like, again, there would have been, there was three of us there that year, Stephen McCarthy, Dave Maher and myself. So that day when Katie's in the Olympic final, you're going, there's nothing else matters. Like, doesn't matter who else is running. Doesn't matter, like Usain Bolt could be one of the 100 metres. Don't care. Nothing to do with us, right? So we put all our resources into that. And we somewhat planned it. Like, you don't plan the fight because you don't know which way she's going to turn or where her dad's going to be or whatever, because he was in a ring that time. But for the ceremony, it was kind of, I said, look, I'm not going to be ringside. I have to look for something that's not obvious. And in fairness, I tried to take, like, the score, you know, the whole context of it, the arena full of Irish people. You know, there's flags there, there's fans cheering. It's during the national anthem, admittedly, so they've all stood still. But you've got the scoreboard, you've got the Irish flag, you know, Katie standing there. Like, it's an easy picture taken necessarily of her sitting there or standing there with her medal. But to get something that's a bit more generic, and I would think it possibly stands, like, it's a historic picture. It's not necessarily a picture for a newspaper, but it's a historic picture because you look at the picture and you know, okay, she beat who she beat. Like, it has the names of the other boxers. It has the Irish tricolour. It has them standing for the anthem. It shows the arena. It shows there's lots of Irish fans there. So it's in one picture, it encapsulates quite a lot.
In your view, like, is boxing up there as an enjoyable sport to cover? Because you associate boxing with iconic photography, like obviously the one from Rome 1960 of Muhammad Ali is...
Yeah, like it's very difficult. It's a bit like hurling, right? Hurling obviously wouldn't be on a global scale, but there's a split second, you know, and it's very rare two photographers will get the same picture in any event. And particularly boxing is nearly, you need to be ahead of time. So you nearly need to be like the opponent. You need to be in that, because if you shoot when a fella throws a punch, you've probably missed the punch when he hits a face.
Sure.
So you have to anticipate it quite a lot. And while even though the cameras can shoot real fast now, you can still miss it because they're just like punches are just a blink of an eye. So boxing and hurling, in my opinion, would be by far the hardest sports to cover.
And we just had an image up there a moment ago, which is just class. This one, if you missed that by a second, you would have missed it entirely. That's incredible.
There would have been a thing in sport about no ball, no picture.
Yeah.
There's no ball on that. And that wouldn't have been the first picture I sent on the day, it would have been the second. But the fact that the hurley splits in two and you see the splinters, like there'd be another picture that I would have sent you on where Seamus Canlan ran into a Limerick goalkeeper and he actually broke his teeth. And his teeth are in the picture.
Jesus.
And I didn't realise it at the time. I just thought it was like saliva or something. But then Seamus went off and he had blood and he came back on and I just didn't think anything of it. It was only afterwards I heard he'd lost teeth. But you can actually see the splinters of teeth in the photograph. And they're clear enough, but it's quite small in the picture. But you'd never see that on television.
Yeah, we're just about to get it up on screen here now. I don't actually know if I'm familiar with this.
I probably should have tipped you off, you know, and said it because, as I said, I didn't even notice when I saw the picture in the first place. But it was only going back in the car and going, oh yeah, he had stitches in his mouth. All right. And then I looked at the picture a bit closer and I thought about it and so.
Oh
like,
my God.
Yeah, like you can just see his face guard there come up against him, and they're actually his teeth.
Jesus. How many teeth are we talking here?
I couldn't tell you that. Like, I've spoken to Seamus about it afterwards, and he's like, he thinks it's grass. You know what I mean? But like,
How have I never seen that photograph before? It's probably the most famous photo out there now. And
sometimes it's hard to see the wood from the trees, but sometimes you do capture things that you go, that's unbelievable.
Yeah.
You know, the man's teeth. What?
No ball, no photo. Is that your phrase?
Well, because we'll make an exception the odd time.
We'll make an exception for this last one as well. Possibly the most iconic sports photo of the decade. It's apt because it was part of our memorable sports moment of the decade. This is you. This is your photo of Pat Hickey. When you say you're kind of like an assassin, are you lying in a knoll or a
like
bunker?
that would have been like we were out covering the Olympics, and it was kind of there was a lull day before it. There wasn't that much Irish going on, and I got a text at like 7:30 in the morning. Rio going, Pat Hickey's been arrested, and I'm going, ugh, this is kind of now it turns into news, and the fact that he was a member of the IXC executive, it like was big international news. So I got the text, met my colleagues Ramsey and Stephen, and we kind of go, okay, what are we going to do? Ramsey went to the police station, I went to the hospital. Stephen continued to cover the Irish that day because we didn't really know how serious it was going to be. And I sat there with a number of other media at the hospital for like 12 or 16 hours. Nothing happened. We had to go back the next morning because we didn't know what was going to go on. And the following day, the day this picture was taken, Thomas Barr was in his 400-metre final. And he ended up being fourth. So we had to cover that. And so Stephen took on the shift at the hospital. And we went to, myself and Ramsey covered Tom Barr, and he came fourth, and that was fine, and everything was. But then we got a text from Stephen saying, look, we think he's going to be released within an hour. So we all barreled down. And like, there would have been a plan where you'd try and photograph through the window, like Morse court. You know, when people are coming out of court, you try and photograph in the window with a flash, and that's kind of your picture of the person in the car. But I stood at the top of the ramp because we saw where the cop cars were going down, and I stood at the top of the ramp, and it's very hard to see down, like, as you can see, it's quite silhouetted there, but there was a lot of backlight coming in from. So it's a hard picture. It was a picture, but we didn't think it would be the picture. But when the car came up the ramp, like, as soon as the wheelchair came out, I knew the profile of Pat, so I just started shooting straight away, like, just nailed it as quick as I could. He got into the car, I alerted everybody else. There's TV from all over the world there, other photographers from Reuters and AP and everybody else. So once the car started coming up then, I couldn't even see in the windscreen, which is very unusual. Like, you normally could see in the windscreen, I was going to tip them off which seat he'd be in, which side of the car he'd be in. Couldn't see anything. So then it came into me going, okay, there's going to be a problem here in that we may not see him at all. So we actually didn't see him. Do you know what I mean? The car came up, and all the lads that photographed in the windows, sure, all they did was get reflections of each other in it, because you just couldn't see it through the tinted windows. So this was like the best picture of the day. Do you know what I mean? Because there was no sighting of Pat. Now, the following day, I think maybe a local AFP photographer went and tried to find out where he was staying and all that. And there may have been pictures in the subsequent days, but on the day it happened, like, this was the only picture that you could recognise Pat in.
Yeah, it's class, absolutely class. Just a couple of more to run through before we wrap up. Some other memorable moments of the day. Shane Lowry and the likes are going to feature here, I'd imagine. There's Kieran Kingston and The Rock. There's Gooch with Pat O'Shea, great moment.
Oh, yeah.
St. Patrick's Day.
One of his greatest days, probably.
This one wasn't taken on a camera.
No, like, this was taken on an iPhone. And while doing the Olympics, like, people think big events are glamorous and all that, but there's an awful lot of time waiting, and you're on a bus and you have to go here, and then you have to wait for another bus, and then you're going there. So the amount of time you spend at Olympics or World Cups or whatever photographing is very small. And as you know yourself from Japan recently, like, there's a lot of time spent waiting around. So I kind of took it on myself that to kind of keep me sane, I put up a picture on my Facebook, one picture every day that I took with my phone. And like, this would have been a Japanese writer, so I didn't need to take a Japanese writer, but you use the filters on the phone with the various apps and all that. And it's just something I did a little project on, just for myself and for just to get a nice little picture for myself, not for Sportsfile or not for anything else. And it kind of proved, I kind of proved to a point that you can get nice pictures with anything, even a camera phone, if you know what you're doing and, you know, you're looking out for the right things. So it's not always about the equipment.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's just about being able to take nice pictures. And like, the amount of iPhone photography out there or smartphone photography out there, the cameras are really good now, and, you know, anybody can do it.
100%. I'm not sure if anybody can do it, but they're certainly getting a lot better. Shane Lowry here this week, or this year, I should say, winning the Open. That
was an amazing. Like, I didn't even notice there in the Shane Lowry one that Wendy, the wife, has her hand up to her face and she's kind of in shock. You know, sometimes you just record the moment and then you see things in after. It's like the Simon Zebo picture there was at.
Yeah, so this is, I presume, the Glasgow game after.
Yeah, it was. And while I felt like there was the thing about Axel 8 in the stand, and we'd planned for that, and my colleague Diarmuid took that and all that, I was just kind of going across the people, and it was only a slight little thing, and it was actually my boss Ray that spotted it, and he was the one that made the decision in the office, going, look, crop in there and convert it to black and white, and because you can just see the tear far. Like, I don't recall seeing the tear necessarily, but because I would have been gone through all the players just to see if anybody reacted. you take a couple of frames, and then it was only when I sent it afterwards that the office saw, and it got huge reaction to. Like, I would have photographed Anthony Foley playing, and he was such a nice man, and he was just a huge loss to them.
Yeah,
you know.
Yeah, it says a lot there. There's more Chicago there. We've got Joe Schmidt and Devin Toner. There's Sonia there, Budapest '98, and there's Rory Best. Presumably, that is Japan just gone.
Yeah.
We're
there to record history, so
absolutely. Well, congratulations on a brilliant year, a brilliant decade. It's a season of Sundays, images of the 2019 Gaelic Games year. But a Sportsfile photographer it's a brilliant Christmas present for anybody looking for something at the moment. It's out now. Final point to note before we wrap up. Enemy at the Gates is the name of that sniper movie. Go watch it, because it's basically you. You're the star of that. Ireland's greatest assassin, Brendan Moran. Thanks a million.
Thanks very much, Eoin. Cheers.